It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
So as we wrap up our coverage here at Netroots Nation, netrootsnation.org, the website, thrilled to see our good friend Randy Weingarten here on the final day. Randy is the president of the American Federation of Teachers, AFT. Randy, thanks for sitting down with us.
Of course.
So what brings you to Netroots Nation?
You know, it's the incredible activists. I was honored to, be asked to be part of it, and we need to also make sure that we can fund and this incredible group of progressive activists continue to get funded and continue to do the work that they do. And I'm glad to see Netroots Nation back in person in Pittsburgh. So I wanted to be here.
Yeah, no, there's been a lot of great conferences. In fact, we were at your convention in Boston not too long ago.
Yep.
And this,
Love that.
Bringing people back together and the networking and the opportunities that come out of that
Right.
are so important in this moment.
And let me dwell on that for a second, because I think that that's really important in so many ways. It's complete bullshit when people say that, the unions didn't want people to be together, that the unions wanted people to be at home. We know the power of relationships and of community building and being together in person. And that's what creates trust, and that's what creates energy. So, the real key has been, how do you do this over the course of the pandemic? How do you make sure that you can be in person, in community with each other, and be safe?
Right.
That has always been the challenge. And what is remarkable about this summer, even as the variant, the Omicron variant has been, all over America, we have the treatment and the vaccine options now to keep people safe. So, whereas there may not be mandates right now, what we know is that there are tools right now to keep people safe. Masks, if you need it, vaccines, treatment options, and all of that is because of Joe Biden's administration, making sure that they could get it out to people. And I think that's why you see a huge difference this summer in all these in-person events of people coming back together.
No, it is important. I'm waiting for somebody to come out with the sticker. Joe Biden did that. Because we saw it, the gas pumps all over
Right,
the place.
right.
Now that it's coming down, you don't see them slapping that stupid sticker all over the place.
under $4 I saw today.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, teachers, you in particular, attacked for wanting to keep people safe. It's almost like the kid who failed biology is, and science is the one leading the messaging on the right, because if I remember right, it was about keeping kids and teachers safe, not about destroying education and indoctrinating children and all the other craziness we hear on the right.
Well, I think what has happened in terms of the right wing is that they understand, because they live in the world of anger and fear and hate, they have a sixth sense for what will exacerbate anger and agita and fear and divide. That's the world they live in. I live in the world of how you create hope and aspiration and a future forward. So what they saw, I think, and we saw it, there was a Political article and a NBC article, I think back in February 2021, that said they were going to use this period of time to try to attack public schools as a means of dividing voters. So they, Rachel Maddow used to say this, believe them when they say it.
Yep.
They're arrogant enough to tell you what they're going to do. So they've always wanted to undermine public education and replace it with a privatized situation. Betsy DeVos has never been unclear about that. They now have taken this to the next step, which is divide, 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 make things worse, 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 create and keep people in their tribes, create and keep people in terms of grievance. So instead of being the party of hope and the party of problem solving, they are the party of division and hate and smear and fear. And that's what they did around COVID. So, you saw it in terms of last school year. All of a sudden you had this Delta virus emerge. And so the physicians, pediatricians said, oh my God, to keep everybody safe, we're going to wear masks. We're not the scientists. They are.
Right.
Okay, so we want to be in schools. They say you got to keep people wearing masks. So we're listening to the peds. They're telling us this. And then you see what the right wing did. Dividing parents, the mask police. The worst is, though, this whole push at chilling teachers from actually answering the questions of kids, from actually being kids' helpers. We're in Pittsburgh, Mr. Roger. We have to be kids' helpers. And so this attempt to ban books and censor curriculum, as opposed to if there are conflicts or issues or tough topics, where is it better to talk about them than in class, under the tutelage of a good teacher? So they're getting so bad, Rick, they're getting so extreme that now they're banning the Diary of Anne Frank and the story of Ruby Bridges.
Yeah, but Mein Kampf is still in some of the schools.
So, but think about, why would they ban the Diary of Anne Frank and the story of Ruby Bridges? I mean, why? These are age-appropriate books for elementary school kids. Why would they ban them? Because they don't want kids to have empathy for other kids who faced oppression. A black kid who faced oppression, a Jewish kid who faced oppression. This is all about trying to destroy trust, trying to create distrust, trying to create fear and division. And what public schools are about is we're about trying to help people build relationships, build resilience, create trust, have a joy about going to schools. So we're trying to actually say, let's recover and thrive and bring everybody back in and create safe and welcoming environments where kids really have joy and where we go back to the basics. This is our campaign right now, what kids and communities need. The right wing is fight, 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 divide, 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 create fear. And if you can't do it based upon facts on the ground, then make things up. Like what DeSantis just did this week. One of the most horrific things, he gets onto one of his press conferences, looks right at the camera and says, pathological liar, excuse me, says, well, teachers, they're trying to change children's sexes. It is a pathological lie. It is defamatory. How dare you do that? And then he says, that's what happens in other states. That's why we had to do what we did. How dare you do that? And, parents know better, like just in Ohio, nonetheless, 91% of parents said their kids' teachers are a positive role model for their kids.
Right. But isn't this one of those moments where you go, my kid's wonderful, but yes, all of those other teachers are doing what he says, and we have to destroy public education? Because we got a guy running for governor in this state who not only wants to cut education funding in half, but also wants to do what the right wing's been dreaming about and give money to parents to homeschool.
Yeah, I mean, this is, they have, since Milton Friedman, since the Brown versus Board of Education decision, the right wing, the extremist elements of the right wing, because a whole bunch of Republicans that love their public schools, the extremist elements of the right wing have been trying to undermine education, take money out for private schools, take money out for profit, and just basically undermine it. I don't know whether they're afraid of it or whether they just want, the market to prevail or privatization. But the bottom line is what has been layered on that now is this level of fear and smear. And it does create fear. It's nonsense. It's defamatory. But they can't win the old-fashioned way. They can't win on ideas because they have none. So what they're doing is just creating fear and exacerbating grievance and tribalism.
Yeah, and destroying.
Yeah, it's the way in which you and I have talked about this before, and I remember the last time we talked about it, they smeared me about talking about it. But this is what DeSantis is doing is the autocratic playbook.
Absolutely. And he's a smart, look, he a lot of people think of him in the same vein as Trump, not very bright. This guy has, Ivy League credentials. This is no dummy.
Yeah,
he knows exactly what he's doing.
He's an elitist. He's from the Ivy League, and but he's deflecting in that kind of way because his wish for power overrides anything else.
And if it means tearing us apart and destroying public education, so much better for them, because that's the goal anyway, isn't it?
So, but I think it's deeper than that. I think it's what you have here in terms of this extremist group or of MAGA folks is that they're taking, like him or not, Trump. He created a cult following.
Yep.
All these new wannabes are trying to take that cult following away from Trump and make it their own. But what is at stake in their fight for power, their political fight for power, what's at stake is all of our freedoms, is our democracy, is the economic safety net we have right now, and children's futures in our schools. Because it's only through public schooling that any child really has a shot, where the government has to be accountable for making sure that that child at least gets reading, writing, arithmetic, and science and social studies. You don't get that. There's no accountability for that in homeschooling. There's no accountability for that in vouchers. And so what we in America believe as public school people is that we have an obligation to all kids, and that it takes resources, and that at this moment in time, after 2 years of disruption, we got to really focus on a couple of things. Help kids recover and thrive. Go back to the basics. Joy, emotional and social supports, but reading, science, pathways to their future. That's what we believe in.
Absolutely. Now, one of the other things I got to ask you, Randy, in looking at where we are, there's a lot of reports of teacher shortages, a lot of teachers leaving the profession because all of these arrows, all of these attacks, all of this heated rhetoric. How are we going to get to that place that you're talking about if the good people are leaving?
Well, part of the problem this year, and I'm glad it's been reported on, is that we've had a teacher shortage for a long time because people are not paid what they ought to be paid. There's what the Economic Policy Institute calls a teacher tax, that teachers are basically paid about 20 to 25% less than they can get for the same skills and knowledge in this hot market in non-teaching jobs. So, between long-term subpar compensation and long-term erosion of working conditions, which are students' learning conditions, and then on top of that, all of the effects of COVID, yet nothing was taken off their plate for the last school year. And then on top of that, all the blaming and shaming and fear-mongering, of course, it's a perfect storm. Of course there's a teacher shortage. But what we're seeing is this. Parents actually care about this. This is one of the major things parents care about. That's part of the reason why DeSantis had to actually say something about the teacher shortage. So what the AFD is doing is we're trying to problem solve it. And there are governors who have really helped us, like Governor Lujan Grisham. She came up with a really good plan this spring to help and raise teacher salaries, made it easier for people who retired to come back to substitute, did the Grow Your Own programs, which we need, which will help diversify the profession. Those, vets, that's part of the Grow Your Own program. That's part of the Troops to Teachers program that we've had for years that Donald Trump killed and then Joe Biden brought back. And so, we're trying to problem solve all of this stuff right now with districts and with states. But the best way to do it, and costs not a dime, RESPECT. Create a climate of respect, because teachers want to make a difference in the lives of kids. What other profession takes money out of their pocket routinely when they don't get paid enough to make sure their classrooms are okay?
I love my kids' teachers, every one of them. I respect them, and look, I know I couldn't do what they do, and I'm grateful for the work that they do, and I'm grateful for the work that you do. And it's always great that you take some time and sit down and talk with us. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks for everything you do.
As always, great stuff. Randy Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers. Quick break back here in Pittsburgh for the Netroots Nation Conference. Right back.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
America, let's do what we do best, build. We have an opportunity to rebuild our economy, fight climate change, and create millions of jobs in the fastest growing industry in the country, clean energy. But we must grab this moment before it slips away. American workers are ready. Now, Congress, it's up to you. We can achieve our clean energy future if we act now.
Welcome back to Pittsburgh here at the David Lawrence Conference Center. I'm sitting here with one of the rock stars of the conference. Chris Smalls is the president of the Amazon Labor Union, America's first independent union led by workers. Chris, thanks for taking time for us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It's been a while since we've had you back on the program. And from the last time to this time, you're now a rock star.
Yeah, it has been. It's been crazy.
I love the enthusiasm of, yeah, you're a rock star. Yeah, it's been crazy.
No, that's just me on day to day.
But, here's the thing. Everybody I talk to here is looking to you as the answer for the labor movement. We're in a moment where people are saying, hey, organizing, people are more interested now than they've been in a long time, and everyone's looking to you as the way forward. That's got to come with some weight on it.
Absolutely. It's a lot of pressure, but at the same time, I know that I have a strong team, and, our inspiration is inspiring millions of people. And, my job is just to continue that message and show that solidarity with everybody.
No, and you're doing a great job at it. But, what you did in Staten Island, the work that you did at JFK 8 and the organizing that you did, is that something that you can replicate in Albany, for instance, and in other places? Because I remember talking to you, and you were living in a hotel. You were there all the time. I mean, heavy labor intensive. Is that something that can be replicated time and time again? Yeah,
we're going to take some wins and losses, but we're going to take a shot. Taking a risk is the first step. And, Albany workers, they're ready to go. My job as the interim president is to go with the workers' decision. It's a Democratic union, and when the workers say they're ready to file their petition, I support that 100%. So whatever happens, but I know we're going to give it our all. And they have a great leader up there, Heather Goodall, and we're happy that they're ready to go. We're going to be behind them.
No, it's great to see all of this organizing, especially from young people and the bottom up, which for someone who's been in the labor movement and fighting for labor rights for better than 30 years, to see finally the kind of enthusiasm that I was hoping at every crisis point would come. I'm optimistic of the future for probably the first time in a long while. But the reality is I think our laws are so badly broken that I fear this moment gets bogged down in procedure. Any concern on that level?
No, not if I got something to do with it.
There you go.
They invited the wrong person to the White House already. Once you let me in, I get a glimpse of what the things that come in the future, and we're not going to stand for that. We're going to hold everybody accountable, and if it starts with our elected officials, I have no problem calling it out. As you've seen in the past. So,
no, you see, and I tell people, if you want to look at a master's class on how to organize and do, get grassroots, bottom up organizing, look to what you've been able to do, because you really haven't been political. You haven't staked a flag in the ground on either side of the political fence. You're talking about, hey, how do we make people's lives better? And I think that's what has to be done across the spectrum.
Yeah. I told Lindsey Graham, this ain't a left or a right thing. It's a workers thing, and it's true. We can't tie ourselves to political parties because we have to represent all workers. And I can tell you 8,300 people in Staten Island at Amazon, we're going to have people that's going to be Trump supporters and have different political views. So we can't exclude them. We have to just keep and build off of the workplace commonality and the workplace issues. Because
at the end of the day, wages, hours, conditions, that should be universal, right? Especially conditions. I mean, because I sit and I talk to workers from Amazon, and the conditions they talk about, the injury rates, all of the heat conditions. We just talked to somebody from San Bernardino when they had the walkout on Monday, and deplorable. And finally, people saying we've had enough. I think it's important. It's an important moment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we are pedal to the metal, trying to spread nationwide, just like Starbucks. We're joining picking lines with other industries across the nation, showing that solidarity. Me traveling across the nation on this hot labor summer tour, just trying to spread that message and keep that awareness and keep the iron hot. That's what we all have to do. We can't let this window of opportunity pass us.
Now, one of the knocks is that you organized one facility. Are you ever going to get a contract? And part of me goes, okay, I understand the argument, but the other part of me is it's building worker power. This idea that you're empowering people to demand better, I think that's just as important as getting a contract in the near future.
Yeah, and the only way we get a contract is we have to be strategic and smart as well. Of course, one building's not going to do it, but we have to inspire other buildings to get involved, which we're doing right now. And it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So it's a slow grind. I know things and people want things to happen overnight and right away after the victory, but it doesn't work that way, especially with these laws in this country and the way the NLRB process is. It takes months and it could take a year or two, but we're not going to give up. And if we can force them to come to the table sooner, we're going to exhaust all those options as well.
No, this really is a David and Goliath scenario. I mean, Amazon's a multi-trillion-dollar corporation. They're enormous. You're just a guy who a couple months ago was living in a hotel, bringing food to people in the parking lot, getting arrested for it. How's the rest of the labor movement reacted to that victory, and are resources coming to help you fight those battles? Because look, Amazon's not going to run out of time or money or energy to fight you at every legal battle. I know you were at the AFT convention spending most of your time in a hotel room doing a deposition.
Yeah, definitely. We know that they're not going to give up on their end. Same thing with us. The resources are coming now. The labor movement is definitely fired up and inspired by our victory. And people are getting involved and donating to our funds. We're going to need all of that because we have to include the community in these other campaigns that will be launched as well. It didn't happen just by the people in the building. It happened with knowing that we have outside support, and we want to continue to grow that. So my job, once again, is to harness those resources for us, traveling and connecting with different people, different unions, different locals, different organizations across this country that are going to get involved right away and help us with our campaigns.
Now you've been doing the miles. I see you just about everywhere. You're the hardest working man in labor. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show. We're with Christian Smalls. He's the president of the Amazon Labor Union. And there's been a lot of knocks lately. I know Stephen Greenhouse wrote a piece recently that the labor movement hasn't done enough on the organizing front, haven't done enough to support groups like yours. Is that fair?
That's true. It's fair, and it's okay to hold unions accountable, too. There's a lot of established unions with leadership that doesn't see eye to eye with the way, we're organizing and Starbucks is organizing because they're used to a certain style and tradition. But we're in a new school generation of organizing, and this is a new face of labor. And obviously, I'm not the traditional style suit and tie president that you'll see in the unions. So it's a little different, but they have to understand we're not going anywhere, and this is how it's going to be. We're in the 21st century, and we have to adapt to the times that we're in, and the corporations have no problem doing it. Labor can't be the same way. They have to make sure that the younger generation takes the torch and lead the way.
Yeah, at the end of the day, though, Chris, the reality is it's still old school organizing, still person-to-person, face-to-face, on the ground, community building, just as much as it is demanding better wages, hours, and conditions, no?
Yeah, but we have a lot more tools now. Social media is definitely huge in our campaigns, TikTok, things like that, obviously wasn't around back in the 30s and the 40s. It was face-to-face and word of mouth and several conversations. But now we have creative ways, and we have to get creative because these corporations, they're infiltrating in ways that are just unimaginable with the amount of money that they're using. We're talking about donating to public schools, starting young, infiltrating our classrooms. The only way we do that is stopping them at the gates.
No.
And spreading them.
I'm glad you brought that up because we just had a conversation with Jeff Bryant the other day.
Yeah.
And he was explaining how Amazon in California has funded, the schools to be a partner in job training, where all it's really turned into being is job training for Amazon. It's not teaching the code. It's not teaching them any vocation. It's just training the next generation of cheap labor.
And also training them to become union busters. They're not only the classrooms at the bottom and kindergarten and beyond, they're talking about college courses where employee relations is a course for business. And we all know employee relations mean you're going to be a union buster.
Yeah.
So that's the creativity that these corporations are using. They're using teenagers. I just left a Fortune 500 convention, got billionaires as 16-year-olds raising startup companies are going to be autonomous. That's going to take jobs away from people. That's the mindset they're thinking, trying to create. And we have to fight that right now with labor and education is definitely vital. Teaching students and kids at a younger age the real history behind labor.
Yep.
I can tell you now, if I was going to be as cool as a rapper, as a union organizer, I would have did this a long time ago.
No, absolutely. And this is one of the things, being here in Pittsburgh, there was a guy who was a rapper here, Jasiri X. I don't know if he still does, but he used to do some really great labor-based rap songs. We used to use it when we were just doing commercial only program. But why is it that the music hasn't caught on to the old kind of using music as a labor vehicle to talk about working conditions, talking about pushing for a better life? That better wages, better conditions frame.
Well, the music industry is exploitive as well. That's why I left it 10 years ago. And shout out to the Hip Hop Alliance. They formed the first union in history as well. Just a few months ago, I was with them. It hasn't happened yet. Rappers, musicians, artists, creatives, influencers, they get exploited as well. The fashion industry, the same thing. I've been out there with the Model Alliance in New York City. They get exploited all the time, and it's only because their managers and the manager's manager is making more money than the creatives and the people that's putting in the work. And having a union with the hip-hop and any industry in music is also vital right now. And I think people are starting to catch hold to that as well.
Yeah, no, education being the key to this, and which is why, again, I've been for decades been saying to my union buddies, you got to get into the schools and teach labor education. You got to teach the battles of the past and the fights that it took to get the 8-hour day, to get the weekend, vacations, health care, all of the things that we take for granted and easily kind of trade away for nickels and dimes. We got to learn the history of it, most certainly.
Yeah, I mean, on career day, teachers have to stop inviting police officers and fire chiefs, bring some union leaders and union presidents.
And bring you in. I mean, because look, you clearly look like some of the high school kids today would identify. And you're right. You're not the typical labor leader, but you're effective, and that's I think is something really important.
Absolutely.
So last thing I got for you. The question going forward. What's the message for that Amazon worker out there right now who maybe they're not being approached by an organizer, or any worker right now who's suffering under oppressive conditions or just not making ends meet? What's the message for them?
Yeah, this union's all over this country. You just got to reach out. Don't be afraid. I know it's the first step is getting over that fear. We have to understand our value and understand our worth. And if you're upset, you're agitated, don't just sign a petition. Get involved. Reach out to these unions. Reach out to the ALU. Hit on our website, amazonlaborunion.org. Get involved. The time is now, and there's strength in numbers. So when we come together, nothing can stop us.
Good stuff. Christian, I appreciate you taking time for us. Great stuff. Keep up the amazing work you're doing, and I hope you'll come back and talk to us again real soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good stuff. Christian Small is president of the Amazon Labor Union. Love to hear your thoughts. You got any work stories you want us to know? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back.
I took 2 years of electric in high school, and I was the only girl in the class there. Here, I'm the only girl as far as installers go. I'm a single mom, too. I joined the union because it gave me options for health care and life insurance so that I know my son's taken care of. I like what I do. This is the best job I've ever had. You think solar panels is more like California. You wouldn't think Appalachia would have any. It would be smart if the government would invest more in clean energy resources.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. Then the Teamsters pushed the law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind. The union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Check out our website, thericksmithshow.com. So while here at Netroots Nation, one of the things that I like to talk about is some of the issues near and dear to the heart. Clean energy being part of that. Also, how do we make rural America clean and green? I know the right wants us to believe all we got to do is drill, baby, drill. But hey, if you've seen some of the studies coming out about what drill, baby, drill is doing to our children, you might really want to think about it. And the opportunities that could come out of, transitioning to something cleaner and greener, and the jobs and the communities we could rebuild, to me, doesn't seem to have a downside, which is why I've asked Michelle Moore to come talk with us. She is the author of Rural Renaissance, Revitalizing America's Hometowns Through Clean Power, a book I suggest. Michelle, thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you, Rick. It's a blessing to be here with you this afternoon.
So you've focused on rural communities and how clean energy could help. We don't hear a lot about that, do we?
No, we sure don't. We don't now, and we never really have.
And the truth of the matter is, and this is what I keep trying to tell my Democratic Party friends, this is a winner in rural America. the idea that we're going to bring jobs, we're going to bring industry, we're going to rebuild communities. And oh, by the way, we're going to help power your farms and your factories and all of this stuff with clean, green, homegrown energy. I don't see the downside argument there.
Amen. Amen. It's about jobs. It's about entrepreneurship. It's about economic development. It's about affordable energy. It's about quality of life. And I tell you what, there are an awful lot of rural heroes already all over the country showing exactly how to do it. So if folks who've been focused on sustainable cities, took a moment to take a look at what their country mouse cousins were doing, they would see a whole lot of ideas that should be scaled and replicated and just doing good work all over the place.
See, this is the thing that gets me, and this is where I reach out to my conservative friends and go, you're the folks who tell us that we believe in energy independence, you believe in American jobs, or at least this is the rhetoric I get, and you can help push back if you have to. I don't understand why the Republican Party and conservatives aren't jumping at this opportunity to rebuild rural communities and to really solidify our lead in the world with clean energy.
I think the reality is at the local level, a lot of people already are.
Okay.
In the book and Rural Renaissance, I really wrote it as an inspirational how-to manual.
That's what I want to hear.
For how to use clean power, how to use the energy transition as a way to revitalize your hometown. I'm from a small town. And we want our small towns and our rural communities to be places that people can go home to, that people can move to, that people can raise their families in for multiple generations, right? So folks don't have to leave to be able to get a decent job and raise their families.
So give me an example of this, because I think a lot of folks have a hard time conceptualizing when we hear. We're trained to believe, whichever side of the political divide you're on, or whatever hat or T-shirt you bought, we have our core misunderstandings. Walk me through something that you go, this is the model, this is the success that we'd like to replicate.
So Rural Renaissance is dedicated to a man named Curtis Wynn. He's a mentor and a dear friend to me, and he built the utility of the future in rural northeastern North Carolina. Roanoke Electric Cooperative. And let me tell you, it's got everything, and it's saving people money, and it's creating opportunities right at home. It's energy efficiency programs that are putting money back in people's pockets. It's solar and energy storage that's making the community more resilient. It's savings that the utility is pocketing, and it's plowing back into community economic development. It's special EV charging rates, bidirectional EV charging, that are making the community more resilient, more energy resilient, and also helping people save money on their transportation bills. Because if you live in a rural community, you got to drive further to get anywhere, and that means it's costing you more money than it does most other people too.
Yeah, the word that popped out that caught my attention was co-op. And so my mind starts going in this place when I hear co-op. I don't hear corporate America. I don't hear profit margins. I don't hear shareholder value. I don't hear that stuff, which is where we've kind of been saddled with the oil and gas companies and the for-profit industry. So maybe could that be the reason we haven't gone full tilt boogie towards a renewable future?
Well, I think maybe, I don't know whether folks forget or whether maybe they never knew that there are more than 900 rural electric cooperatives in this country. They cover more than 50% of America's landmass. And when you put them together with public power utilities, utilities that are owned and controlled by local municipal government and by elected city councils, we already got a few thousand energy democracies in America. And these are all institutions that were created in the 1930s. The last time we invested as much money in America's energy infrastructure as we're fixing to now, specifically to connect electrification to economic development. We already have the tools, we have the institutions, they cover the land, they serve the people. We're just not using them yet.
Because I'm listening to you talk and explain this, and I remember all of that organizing that went into building those co-ops in the 30s, and thrilled with it. Especially, you're talking about farmers being able to, get their grain to market, and the co-ops that came out of that. But I know my friends on the right are going, well, that's socialism.
Well, I think that it's what it is. It's as it relates to solar, it's energy property rights, it's self-determination, and it's local control. That would be my response.
No, and it's stuff that these are frames and terms that I think my conservative friends would buy into, because that local control, that local power, that's enticing.
It is. And, when we think about it in terms of energy in America, because we spend a lot of time beating one another up in Washington right, over words and terms and goals and how to do things. But the reality is that the energy landscape in America is federalism at work. We don't have just one energy future that we all have to march towards together. We have energy futures with an S. It's plural.
Right.
Not just because of federalism, but also because, all of our states have different gifts. Do you have a whole lot of land like Georgia does in South Georgia that you can put tons and tons of solar panels on? Do you have a dense built environment like Pittsburgh, where we are now, where you could put a whole lot of rooftop solar? Do you have the ability to manufacture EV cars and EV drivetrains and energy storage? There are a whole lot of blessings that we have an abundant that we could be focused on versus just arguing over details that in many cases aren't even relevant in Washington.
No, you're right. And for me, the idea is recreating the jobs that we lost during the deindustrialization period, especially in rural communities. I'm a rural transplant. I grew up in a housing project on the west side of Cleveland. So I lived in an urban area. I now live in a very rural area. And, you see, the problems that rural communities have and want to address the jobs. And that's it's a big part of it. I look at, when the factory leaves, and that was the town's identity, and the problems that are left behind, opioid addiction, broken families, all I'm sure you've seen, this could help begin to heal some of those communities and heal some of those wounds and give those communities an identity again.
Absolutely. And to really fully value them for their contribution, right? Like when you have a huge urban center, like New York, or like in my home state of Georgia, like Atlanta, when these cities say, okay, we're going to be 100% powered by renewable energy, guess what? They don't have enough square footage to be able to generate enough solar power to be able to meet that goal on their own. So if we're going to have solar farms or wind farms or energy storage or manufacturing to be able to serve those big city energy appetites, where's that going to be? Where are we going to put it?
No, that's
we're going to put it in rural communities and making sure that those economic relationships are equitable. So rural workers are being valued as key.
That is such an excellent point. The book, Rural Renaissance, written by Michelle Moore. We'll get links out on social media. You can take a look at it. Go over to islandpress.org if you want to take a look at that. Now, that divide. And again, one of the things we talk about on the program quite often is how the wealth class always divides us. There's always ways to pit people against each other, sliced and diced into neat little categories to attack each other. And rural and urban seems to be one of those dividing points. This could be one of those issues that unites both because there's radical self-interest for both.
Absolutely. And I just want to uplift again how important our rural electric co-ops and our municipal utilities, our public power utilities are in that as well. Because in clean energy, if I can get a little bit policy wonky here for a moment. I'm getting wonky. A lot of it is financed by tax credits. And there are expanded tax credits in the new Inflation Reduction Act. But tax credits is an incentive. What tax credits do is they reward the wealthy to be landlords over the poor. Right. And so that incentive structure bakes in like ownership for the wealthy and can tend to even expand that divide.
Yeah.
And because rural cooperative utilities are owned and controlled by their members, municipal public power utilities are controlled by the residents who elect those boards and elect those city council members. Clean power combined with cooperative and public power utilities give us the opportunity to really reinvest ownership.
Yeah, no,
right?
and that's
ownership over our
incredibly
energy
important
systems.
because it's one of the things that I've been trying to get my local community to think about with broadband access. I would love to have, because I think there's a city in Tennessee that's actually done this, where they have a citywide or a community-wide.
Chattanooga.
I think might be it, where you have it's part of your tax base. And the Wi-Fi throughout the community is there. Your home internet is there, and it's part of a public service. And it's something that I think a model that could be replicated across the country.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you what else is broadband.
And it's not Comcast.
No, it's not. It's locally controlled and affordable. Broadband is clean energy infrastructure. You got to have broadband for the two-way communications that are necessary in a smarter grid. And so once again, those municipal utilities, public power utilities, Cooperative utilities are ideally positioned to be the leaders who bring affordable broadband, and I mean real broadband, not fake, we're going to do it and we never do it broadband, to rural communities. That same, Roanoke Electric Cooperative, you can get broadband if you're a member there for $50 a month.
Wow, that's impressive. Again, the book, Rural Renaissance, written by Michelle Moore. We'll get links out on social media how you can take a look at that. islandpress.org, the website, if you want to take a look at getting a copy of it. Suggest this. Now, also that you're part of the organization Groundswell.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me a little bit what that is?
Absolutely. Groundswell is a nonprofit organization. Our mission is building community power, and I'm the CEO.
There you go. Community power as in citizen power or electric power? Where are we going?
Good question. We think of community power as all of the above. But Groundswell builds stuff. We build community solar projects. We build community energy resilience centers. We deploy energy efficiency programs that are really used as a reparative investment in housing equity. We do research, and we serve more than 6,000 income-qualified households with about $500 a year in clean energy savings each. So it's more than $3 million a year in savings.
Nice. How do you? So I only got last question I got. How do I get you to move to Pennsylvania? And I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going, how do we get you to come to our state?
Listen, reach out to me. I will share my email address. Michelle.moore@groundswell.org. Find me on social media, Wabi_Sabi. And I'd love to have a conversation about how we can bring these ideas to your hometown, too. That's why I wrote that book. And it would be a blessing to be able to share what I've learned in service to other people who, like me, who want to make small towns and rural places, communities where everybody can thrive.
Yeah, and maybe while rebuilding our communities and doing all this, maybe we could even, save the planet.
Amen.
Something small like that. Leave something to our children.
Absolutely. As my friend Ari Wallach would say, we got a great opportunity here to be wonderful ancestors.
There you go. Again, Rural Renaissance is the book. Island Press, the website. Check it out. Quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
The Rick Smith Show.
The good news is America is coming back. More jobs, more building, more of what makes our country great. And more cities and towns, more small businesses, and big corporations are choosing the highly skilled, highly trained members of the IBEW to do the work. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers is committed to doing the job right, on time, and safely. America is making a big comeback, and the IBEW is proud to do our part.
Calling all builders. Your country is calling you. Tackling climate change is the job of our lifetime. It's time to build back better. Let's get to work.
Welcome back here to Netroots Nation. We're at the David Lawrence Conference Center in Pittsburgh, as we've been talking about all day. One of the questions that keeps coming up is what makes a good candidate, especially as, November is coming around, and, how do we save democracy? High-minded stuff, how do we rebuild a prosperous working class? How do we rebuild the American dream? How do we do all that stuff? Well, my next guest, she's got the answers. That's why I've asked Stephanie Taylor to come talk with us. She's the co-founder of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee. You can check out their work at boldprogressives.org. Stephanie, thanks for sitting down with us.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So let's start with the candidate thing. What makes a good candidate?
What makes a good candidate? So we support candidates all over the country. We tend to support about 1,000 candidates each cycle, school board to Senate. And I will tell you the number one thing that people are looking for, they're looking for authenticity. They are looking for people who, deep in their gut, are on the side of working people, not corporations, and people who get that the system is rigged and are willing to acknowledge that our institutions are failing us, our institutions are broken, and that they're going to go in there and fight to do something about it.
Yeah, having an actual agenda and not being about the individual. Sadly, I know a lot of people who get into running for something, and it's about them.
Yeah.
And it really isn't about the individual. It's not being the first this or that. It's about how are you going to make people's lives better? How are you going to make the lives of your constituents better, your community better? How are you going to change the world?
Yeah.
Your little piece of it at the start.
Yep, that's right. We say a lot. We talk about the kitchen table test, which is when people are sitting at their kitchen table late at night, looking at a stack of bills in front of them. They're worrying about, what do I pay first this month? The heating bill? Do I pay off my credit card debt? Are you speaking to that? Are you letting them know that you get it, that you get that the pressures that working people are under in this country, and you're going to actually do something about it?
Yeah, I'm with you. Now, we've heard a lot, especially at this conference, about democracy and saving democracy, especially after the orange period in our country. There was that 4-year stint that seems to be bleeding over into these last couple of years. How do we save democracy, since it does appear? I mean, I look here in my state of Pennsylvania that we've got a guy running for governor who I believe is a pure fascist and would destroy democracy in this state. How do we save this?
Oh, yeah. I'm in Pennsylvania also, and I'm terrified about Mastriano. But yeah, we have to, well, two things, I believe. We have to run more candidates who are, again, authentic, who are speaking to the worries of everyday Americans, and who also are willing to say the institutions are broken and we're going to fix them. We have too many Democrats that defend institutions, that are saying, everything's working fine. We just have to keep going the way we're going. No, the institutions are broken. The Supreme Court is broken. Electoral College, broken system. The Senate is broken. Let's get people in there that are willing to take these on, to fix them, and really take on the corporate capture of our democracy. But number two, we have to be prepared that there are people who are running for office right now. You brought up Mastriano. There's people all over the country running for governor, running for Secretary of State. These people are existential threats to democracy. And we have to be prepared in 2024 to really fight to make sure that we still have a democracy.
But what do you say to the people? Look, this is democracy. There are folks who are running on a platform of destroying democracy. And there are people who say, no, we don't want this. We want, whatever, authoritarian kind of fascist rule that they would bring us. What do you say to that argument?
Well, when you're overthrowing election results, that's anti-democratic, right? but yeah, I mean, one of the things we believe very much is that, for instance, we need to expand the Supreme Court because we.
Do you think that's possible?
Well, it should be. Okay. I mean, we should do it, and there's a couple really good bills out there. One, I would ask people to check out Ro Khanna's bill on term limits for Supreme Court judges, because I think it's a really nice solution to how you deal with the fact that you have a bunch of folks who have lifetime appointments and who are on the Supreme Court and have decided that they're basically an unelected tribunal that gets to decide for the rest of us what laws we're going to live under. And that's not how it works.
Right.
And
so on the expand the court problem, here's my problem with the expand the court argument. I know the other side eventually will come back to power. What stops them from expanding it to swing things back to the other? And we end up swinging back and forth in this kind of electoral fashion. What would stop that until eventually we end up with 1,000 justices?
And so be it.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. But seriously,
that would be democracy, I guess.
Here's the problem, is that a lot of times that's an argument you hear from Democrats a lot of times. Well, if we do this, if we get rid of the filibuster, if we expand the court, if we use our power, what's going to stop the Republicans from doing the same thing? The thing is, they already run roughshod over our institutions. They already do whatever they want. They already don't respect norms when they have power. When McConnell gets power again and he wants to do something that he can't do you think he's going to keep the filibuster for 1 minute?
Nope.
And so I think it's just, the answer is just you can't worry about what the other guys are going to do, because they're going to do whatever they want.
Yeah,
and right now
anyway.
we have to worry about how do we wrestle back a Supreme Court that is sort of announced to the world with the Dobbs decision. We don't care what the majority wants. We don't care. We're just going to say how it's going to be, and the rest of you are going to have to live with it. 70% of Americans don't agree with the Dobbs decision. The vast majority of people in this country want to see legal abortion, but yet we have a Supreme Court that's ruling otherwise.
Yeah, our six in robes, they know better.
Right.
And that's scary. And look, there are a lot of other things, whether, you're talking about women's rights, you're talking about workers' rights, you're talking about consumer rights, you're talking, just basic citizens' rights, all of that because of this court under attack. And from a labor perspective, I'm very concerned what the future has to hold. And I know you, as a former union organizer, I'm sure you see it as well. The things that they're going to do are going to return us back to the days of the Lochner era.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that they are a profoundly pro-corporate, anti-worker court, and we should all be really scared about it. And we were just talking before the interview about how we need to rebuild the labor movement in this country, and that requires, laws that allow us to do that.
So how do we begin outside of going to boldprogressives.org and becoming involved in the work that you do? And you're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're here with Stephanie Taylor. She's the co-founder of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, boldprogressives.org, their website, if you want to check that out. Outside of going to that website, what do you want people doing?
Exactly. You can come to the website. You can volunteer for local candidates, volunteer for great local candidates, chip in for local candidates, get involved supporting great local candidates. But also, if you feel driven, if you feel the calling, running for office yourself. We should be contesting every election everywhere. And you need folks that are able to speak to regular people and get their lived reality, get what it is to be a working person in this country, staring at that stack of bills on your kitchen table late at night and willing to say, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to fight to do something about it, I'm going to fight to level this playing field. If you feel like that, you're that kind of person, run for office.
And being able to speak is an important thing.
Yep.
Something I struggle with quite often. But Stephanie, I appreciate you taking time for us. Hope folks will go to boldprogressives.org and check out the work you do and participate.
Thank you so much.
Good stuff, Stephanie. It's Stephanie Taylor, co-founder of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee. Make sure you check out their website, boldprogressives.org. We'll get links out on social media, how you can take a look at that. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
Waving the flag of freedom for people, not corporations. Rick Smith.